Hello everybody, dear English-speaking followers, friends and clients, astrology lovers, of course. Here is Olga Vasilchuk, and today I would like to talk about the retrograde phase of Saturn in Capricorn that will last from April 17th until September 5th, 2018. I would like to invite those who did not watch my video about the ingression of Saturn in Capricorn to watch this video. I will put the link in the comments under the current video. I would like to remind you that the orbital cycle of Saturn is 29 years and a half. So in 30 years, the social planet makes the tour of the zodiac, and its retrograde cycle is annual. That is, Saturn is in retrograde movement during 4 months and a half each year, during 1 year. So it's retrograde, it is retrograde during 140 days, and of course it can be stationary. It is stationary for 5 days when it changes the direction of the movement, when it gets retrograde. From direct to retrograde, it's stationary for 5 days, and then it's also stationary during 5 days when it gets from the retrograde movement towards the direct movement. So during the retrograde phase, Saturn can be in 1 degree, can stay in 1 degree during 1 month and a half, and it covers actually 7 or 8 degrees of the zodiacal arc during the retrograde movement. So if you talk about the retrograde phase of Saturn of this year, it is stationary from April 14th until April 17th, and also from September 5th until September 11th. During the time when transit Saturn is retrograde, we go back to analyze the projects started earlier or the commitments made before, in order to re-evaluate our actions and our internal position. This is the moment of internal growth. It gives the opportunity to correct and to eliminate what we could not handle during the direct phase of the planet, or even throughout our life. The retrograde phase of any planet creates situations in which our choice is limited. We find ourselves in a sort of emptiness, alone with ourselves, becoming aware of what prevents us from feeling comfortable with ourselves, or of what embarrasses us globally. We are therefore forced to face our destructive tendencies, which will lead to a change of the situation. For example, in relationships, if you talk about Saturn retrograde, we try to define our boundaries and to learn about and to learn how to be independent without harming the relationship. In business, we analyze the results of our past actions, and we estimate whether it's worthwhile to continue in the same direction, and if so, in what form. This is a time when we can see the results of our previous aspirations that will be reflected in our inner state. Saturn is a significant signifier of the 10th house as the ruler of the sign of Capricorn, and it stands for career, reputation, our position in society. And regardless of the house which is transited by Saturn retrograde, we redefine our priorities, we change our career preferences, we examine the structure and the principles of the company if we are on our own, if we have our own business, if we are independent workers. Saturn is Kronos, the god of time in ancient Greece. Measuring minutes, periods, cycles is the time that heals. It's the time that heals, and the hardship that makes us wiser. The slowdown can sometimes be very healing for the soul and useful for business, especially when we start a work that has not been sufficiently prepared. Therefore, the transit of Saturn has a positive side. The transits have positive side. They are associated with the slowing down of the action, but it's exactly the slowing down that contributes to the formation of such qualities as patience, the last key opening the door that we need. I would like to remind you that in December 2017, Saturn entered the sign of Capricorn on December 21st, almost at the same moment of its conjunction with the Sun. You remember that? And this conjunction, Sun Saturn, on the 21st of December, marked the beginning of yearly Saturnian subcycle of the cycle Sun Saturn. And at this moment, we have formulated, this is what we are supposed to do, the content of this new yearly cycle through the formulation of our goals and projects. We are asking ourselves questions: what we want to realize, what long-term projects, big projects we want to realize during the next year, during the next cycle Sun Saturn. And the combination of the trends put in place in December 2017 will correspond to the first half of the retrograde phase of Saturn, and of course to the first half of the cycle Sun Saturn, from now, middle of April, until the end of June. Because on the 27th of June we have the opposition Sun Saturn, which marks the middle of the cycle. And at this precise moment we will particularly feel the manifestation of the principles of Saturn in our terrestrial affairs, the principles of structure, form, frame, limits, limitations, responsibility. We will note the most important tangible changes in our long-term projects, and not necessarily in a negative context. By overcoming obstacles, by working seriously, and by taking advantage of the past success, we'll be able to achieve the most important goals, but only if we implement our ideas in the concrete reality, and if we do it in a disciplined way. If from the beginning of the cycle Sun Saturn, since December 2017, we perceive the Saturnian principles only as constraints or as circumstances that force us to do this or that action, then of course we will undergo pressure of limitations, constraints, facing losses and crisis. So what about this opposition Sun Saturn? When Saturn, like any slow planet, becomes retrograde, it goes progressively towards its opposition with the Sun. The days near the transit opposition, Sun Saturn, are an important point of the cycle Sun Saturn, and one of the most difficult time periods of the year. This is the middle of the cycle, middle of cycle Sun Saturn, and during this time we can become aware of what prevents us from moving forward, from moving towards our goals. We become aware of whether we have assumed more than we can assure. This period brings difficult situations, especially if previously we had problems with the law, problems with the discipline, problems of immature and or disrespectful attitude towards our parents, problems with the partnerships caused by the desire to flee responsibilities. But we also can, of course, at this peak, become aware of our destructive attitudes and to get rid of them. Thus, during Saturn's opposition to the Sun, problems in relations with the authorities, with the law, with the people endowed with the power are possible. This is a difficult time for personal and professional relationships and an unsuccessful period for solving problems in official institutions. It is necessary to complete our duties accurately, to observe the subordination. Do not enter in conflict with the authorities. It will lead to serious major problems. Offer more attention to older family members. This period can also remind of obligations, of old debts. And during this time, opposition Sun Saturn, we must act only by legal methods and avoid being depressed and disappointed if we are forced to separate from something or from somebody. It's also necessary to make difference between the main and the secondary, not to work too much because our vitality is weakened. Special attention should be paid to the health condition of people who have cardiovascular problems. And starting from the second half of July, from June 20, after the opposition Sun Saturn on June 27th, so actually July until mid-September, this will be the second half of the cycle Sun Saturn. Saturn in Capricorn will be in Trine with Uranus, which will be already in Taurus. And during this aspect, Trine Saturn Uranus, we will be able to see the results of our long-term projects. We will determine our place in society, and these results will open up new opportunities for us to go beyond our usual financial situations. Also, these results can cause the violation of stability, because it depends on how you deal with the energies of Uranus, how you welcome changes. But once again, here you have to see if this transit, if Saturn and Uranus in Trine, in transit, they form aspects with your personal planets. In this case, this aspect, which will be in any case a background aspect, will have a more personal, more specific impact on your personal situation. So, continue the same thought. The transit of Saturn retrograde is not felt by everyone in the same way. Now, here's very important information. This transit is especially felt by those who have planets in their birth chart in the degrees of Saturn retrograde and in the degrees of its stationary phases. Check if you have planets in the following degrees of Capricorn, between the 2nd and the 9th degree of Capricorn. And also verify if you have planets in the degrees of Saturn's opposition to the Sun, because on June 27th, the Sun will be in the 5th degree of Cancer and Saturn will be in the 5th degree of Capricorn. So if you have planets in Capricorn between the 4th and the 6th degree, and between the 4th and the 6th degree of Cancer and or Capricorn, in this case, the opposition Sun Saturn will have a very huge impact on your personal situation. So if Saturn doesn't cling to a personal planet through an aspect, any aspect, the strongest is of course the conjunction. Its retrograde period has no significant influence on one's personal affairs. Its retrograde movement has more impact on the social life, on the business, if you have your own company, your own business, on affairs, on affairs of those who, for example, occupy position in a governmental institution. For those who have Saturn retrograde in their birth chart, the period of its retrograde movement is an important time of personal growth. At the moment of Saturn's change of the phases, when it gets from direct to the retrograde, and when it ends its retrograde phase and it gets back to the direct movement, the influence of the sign by which Saturn transits is amplified. Now we talk about Capricorn, of course, because Saturn is in Capricorn. But once again, you can learn more about that, about the position of Saturn in Capricorn, in the video about the ingression of Saturn in the sign of Capricorn. We must pay particular attention to the sphere of the house of the chart, of your personal birth chart, in which Saturn changes the direction of its movement. So verify in which house of your chart Saturn is getting retrograde, and then when it gets direct in a couple of months, in September. So the conclusion, the general advice. So Saturn is retrograde in Capricorn from April 17th until September 6th. What we should not do during this period: start a new business, open a company. No, because Saturn is responsible for structure, organization, basement. Start a new business, no. Continue working on the current business if you have one. It's better also to avoid to get married, to buy a property, not good. Avoid buying properties, new properties. Start a new lifestyle, like implement a new healing system, particular type of a diet, new sport. This is also something that is better to avoid until the middle of September. And what is useful, what is advised to do? Useful, what will be good to do? Improve professionally. For example, we can subscribe to courses like, we call it continuing education, right? Develop a skill or ability, perfection, a particular skill. We can read a book left before, or we can read a book that we dreamed to read for a long time. Of course, we should visit parents and grandparents, elderly family members, resolve an issue, a situation that has emerged, that will probably emerge from the past. We should perform official duties in a more punctual and more responsible manner than ever before. Respect the subordination. And maybe the last advice is to relax, to allow ourselves to be carried by the flow, to accept life, to accept ourselves, to make peace with ourselves, to love ourselves in spite of our faults and for our virtues, our qualities, and be also tolerant towards other people. Hope this information was useful, will be useful, and thank you very much for your attention, and talk to you very, very soon. Goodbye.